Good morning. Today we will continue with the Income Tax Act 2025 discussion that we have already made a part 1 video of income tax that is relating to the TDS deduction under the new act, that is the Income Tax Act 2025. They starting with section 392. We are starting this series with the 392 and onwards, and there are 10 sections of TDS involved in this Income Tax Act 2025. It is starting from 392. It is ending in 402. All the TDS provisions relating thereof. So we will continue with the 393 and we will come back with the 392 also in the meanwhile of this video. So we have already discussed in the previous part that the commission brokerage is going to be rate at the rate decided in this act. Suppose you are receiving any commission that is related to the insurance policy, then any portion which is receiving the rate would be the rate in force, meaning thereby is slab rate, and threshold limit is 20,000. Means 20,000 you have to pay. You have to deduct TDS if you are paying more than 20,000 insurance commission. And for other than insurance commission, a specified portion is the payer, then rate would be 2%, and threshold limit is again is 20,000. And for any income by way of rent, then the rate would be 2%. Threshold limit is 50,000 per month or part of the month. And for any income by way of rent, for a specified portion is 2% for use of any machinery or plant or equipment, or 10% for use of any land or building, or for including factory building or land opportunity to building, or including the factory building or furniture or fixing. Threshold limit for A and B, 50,000 for a month or part of the month. In serial number 2, tax shall be deducted on such income at the time of credit of the rent through the account of the payee, or payment thereof in cash or by way of check or draft or in other mode, whichever is earlier, for the last month of the tax year or last month of the tenancy. Or if you come to the a payment on transfer of certain immovable property or the property other than agriculture land, any consideration for transfer of any immovable property other than agriculture land per person other than the person who are required to deduct TDS 1% of the consideration or stamp duty value, whichever is higher, and threshold limit has already fixed at 50 lakhs. That is, in earlier income tax in 1961, this section was relating to 194 IA, where we are deducting 1% TDS of the consideration of stamp duty value, whichever is higher. And any consideration not being considered in the kind under the agreement referred to section 67 subsection 14, rate would be 10%, threshold limit is nil, and any portion any sum being in the nature of compensation or enhanced compensation or consideration or enhanced consideration on account of the compulsory acquisition under any law for the timing in force of any immovable property other than agricultural land, any portion, rate is 10% and threshold limit is 5 lakh. Compensation or enhanced compensation consideration for compulsory, this provision is relating to the compulsory acquisition. If it is more than 5 lakh, then you have to deduct 10% TDS. Consideration for transfer of any immovable property under the serial number 31 shall be the aggregate of the amounts paid or payable by all the transferee to the transferor, or all the transferor for the transfer of the such immovable property for the purpose of threshold limit mentioned in column D. In case of consideration on which the provision of both the serial number 31 32 are applicable, tax shall be deducted under 32 only. For the purposes of serial number 33, that income tax shall be deducted where consideration for transfer of any immovable property or the stamp duty value of such property is equal to or greater than 50 lakhs rupees. Income from capital market. Any income in respect of units of mutual fund is specified under Schedule 7 or table serial number 20 or 21, or the units from the administrator of the specified undertaking units from the specified company. Any portion rate is 10%, threshold limit is 10,000. Any distributed income referred to in section 2223 being of the nature referred to in schedule 5 serial number 3 4 payable to a unit holder of business trust. Any business trust rate is 10%, threshold limit is nil. Any income other than the proportion of income which is exempt under schedule 5 table serial number 2 in respect of units of an investment funds is specified in section 224 payable to its unit holder. Any investment fund specified in section 224 rate is 10%, threshold limit is nil. Any income in respect of an investment in an securitization trust is specified in section 221 to an investor. Any securitization trust is specified in section 221 rate is 10%, threshold limit is nil. And interest income, any income by way of interest on securities, any portion rate in force or threshold limit is 10,000. Any income by way of interest other than interest on securities, banking company or a cooperative society is carrying on the business of banking or post office or for deposit made under the scheme notified by the central government, rate is rate in force, that is slab rate will be applicable, and 1 lakh limit in case of senior citizen, or for other than senior citizen 50,000 30 days will be deducted. Any income being the interest other than interest on securities is specified portion other than portion is in serial number 5 to C. Rate in force threshold limit is 10,000. In serial number 52 or 53 where the interest income credited or paid in respect of time deposits with the banking company or time deposits with the cooperative societies engaged in carrying on the business of banking or deposits with the public company formed and registered in India with the main object of carrying on the business of long-term finance for construction or purchases of house in India for residential purposes and is eligible for deduction under section 32A. The person mentioned in column C has not adopted core banking solutions. Threshold limit in column D shall be computed with reference to the income credited or paid by a branch of such person. Person responsible for making the payment referred to in the serial number 523 of the table may at the time of making any deduction increase or reduce the amount to be deducted for the purpose of adjusting any excess or deficiency arising out of any previous deductions or failure to deduct any tax during the year. Person responsible for making payment referred to in serial number 5253 of the table may at the time of making any deduction or increase or decrease the amount to be deducted for the purpose of adjusting any excess or deficiency arising out of any previous deductions. Payments to the contractors, fees or professionals or technical. Any sum for carrying out any work including the supply of labor for carrying out any work in pursuance of a contract between the contractor and the designated persons. Any designated person, rate is 1% of the contractor is individual or Hindu undivided family, or 2% if the contractor is a portion other than the portion mentioned in way A. Threshold limit A and B, that is A for 30,000 for any sum and 1 lakh in case of aggregate of the such sum. Means 30,000 for the single payment, and for multiple payments aggregate of the such payments should not exceed 1 lakh rupees. Any sum for carrying out any work including supply of labor for carrying out any work in pursuance of the contract by way of fees for professional services or by way of commission not being insurance commission referred to in serial number 11 or brokerage. Any person being an individual family other than the person required to deduct in serial number 61 and 62, the rate is 2% and threshold limit is 50,000 50 lakh rupees. Means any sum for carrying out any work including supply of labor for carrying out any work in pursuance of a contract by way of fees for professional services or by way of commission not being the insurance commission referred to in serial number 11 or brokerage. Any portion being an individual family referred to refer to other than the person those required to deduct under serial number 61 or 66163 और serial number 12. अगर ए नहीं है, if this is not there, then they will be deducted as per this provision. Any sum by way of fees for professional services, fees for professional services, technical services, remuneration of a piece of commission by whatever name called other than those are from which deductible under section 392 a director of a company, or royalty or any sum referred to in section 26 subsection 2 subsection h. Specified person rate is 2% of such sum in case of fees for technical services not being professional services, or royalty in case in the nature of consideration for sale or distribution or exhibition of the cinematography film. Pay engaged only in the business of operation of call centers, 10% of such sum in case other than a. Threshold limits for A, B, D, E of column 50,000, for C of column nil. Note in serial number 61, if any sum is paid or credited for carrying out any work specified in section 40247 subsection is tax shall be deducted at source on the invoice value, excluding the value of the material if such value of the specified is specified separately in the invoice, or on the whole of the invoice value if the value of material is not specified separately in the invoice. On the invoice value excluding the value of the material, on the whole value of the material the value of is not specified separately in the income. That this provision also there in the previous income tax act 194C, that if the invoice value excluding if separately means a material and service of values are material separately shown in the invoice, then material value will be excluded while deducting TDS. And dividend, any dividend including the dividend on preference shares declared any domestic company, rate is 10%, threshold limit is nil, and tax will be deducted source before making any deductions or payment of dividend. Any sum under the life insurance policy including the sum allocated as a bonus on the such policy other than the amount not includable in the total income under schedule 2 serial number 2. Any portion per 2% on income comprised in such sum, threshold limit is 1 lakh. Okay, any sum exceeding 50 lakh rupees for the purpose of any goods, this is 194Q. That then any person being the buyer, 2.1% threshold limit is given in note number 1. Total income of the specified senior citizen after giving effect to deductions allowable under chapter 6A and the rebate allowable under section 156 is specified banks rate in force and threshold limit is as applicable. Any benefit or perquisites, whether convertible in money or not, arising from business or the exercise of a profession of any resident, a specified person, rate is 10% of the value or aggregate of the value of such benefit or perquisites, or threshold limit is 20,000. Any sum in account of sale of the goods or the provision of services by e-commerce participant facilitated by the e-commerce operator through its digital or electronically facilitated platforms. Any e-commerce operator rate is 2.1% of the gross amount of such sale or service, or both. Threshold limit is nil. Any sum by way of consideration for transfer of a virtual digital assets, any portion, and our rate is 1%, threshold limit is 1%, nil. Deduction of tax under the serial number 82 shall not apply to a transaction on which the tax collected for any of the provision of tax. The tax shall be deducted on the sum exceeding 50 lakh rupees. Note 2. A provision of the serial number 84 shall also apply to any benefit or perquisites where such, whether in cash or kind, or partly in cash or partly in kind, provided to a resident before providing such benefits or perquisites as the case may be. Person responsible for providing such benefit or perquisites shall ensure that that tax has been deducted. In respect of the serial number 85, for deduction of tax, the provision thereof shall take precedence over any other provision of this chapter. Any payment made by the purchaser of the goods or recipient of the service directly to an e-commerce or participant for sale of the goods or provision of service, or both, facilitated by the e-commerce operator, shall be deemed to the amount created or paid by the e-commerce operator or to the e-commerce participants, and this amount shall be included in the gross amount of such sale or service for the purposes of deduction of income tax under this serial number. E-commerce operator shall be deemed to be the person responsible for paying e-commerce participants irrespective of the anything contained in this chapter, if tax has been deducted on the transaction value under this serial number, and transaction is not liable for tax deduction is provided in section 392 of subsection 4 serial number 11, then tax will not be deducted on such transaction under any other provision of this chapter. Clause D shall not apply to any amount or aggregate of the amounts previously received or receivable by an e-commerce operator for hosting, advertisement, or providing any other services, whether which are not connection with the sale or services referred to in serial number. In case of transaction on which the provision of serial number 85 are applicable, along with the provision of serial number 86 for deduction of the tax, then irrespective of anything contained in note number 3, tax on such transaction shall be deducted only on the provision of serial number 86. Provision of serial number 83 shall take precedence over any other provision of this chapter, and tax shall be deducted under this provision. Note number 6. For serial number 846, where consideration of benefit purpose is provided, as the case may be, is in the exchange of another virtual digital assets, where there is no party in cash or in respect of serial number 864, or is wholly in kind, or is partly in kind or partly in cash, but such part in cash is not sufficient to meet the liability of deduction of tax in respect of the whole of such payment or benefit of perquisites. The person responsible for paying providing such shall ensure that the tax required to be deducted has been paid before releasing such consideration or providing such benefits or perquisites, as the case may be. Person responsible for providing means of what? Person responsible for paying means of person providing such benefit or perquisite, in the case the company itself, including the participated officer thereof, where any income or sum of nature specified in column B of the table below is credited or paid by the person specified in column D during the tax year to a non-resident is specified in column C. The person responsible for paying such sum or such income or sum shall deduct income tax on the amount of such income or the sum at the time of at the rate specified in column E, or at the time of credit of income or such income to the account of pay, or the time of its payment in cash or by of check or draft, or by any other mode whichever is earlier, and subject to the provision of subsection 4, 8 and 9. For payment to non-residents, any income referred to in section 211, any non-resident sport persons, including an athlete or an entertainer who is not a citizen of India, a non-resident sport association or institutions, any portion rate would be 20%. Any income by way of interest payable in respect of money borrowed in foreign currency from a source outside India under a loan agreement, or issue of long-term infrastructure bond on or after 1st July 2012, but before the 1st July 2023, or by way of issue of any long-term bonds or on or after 1st October 2014 but before the 1st July 2023, which is approved by the central government in this behalf. Any non-resident not being the company or a foreign company, any Indian company or a business trust, 5%. any income by of interest payable in respect of the monies borrowed from a source outside India by way of issue of rupee denominated bonds before 1st April 2023. Any non-resident, not being a not being a company or a foreign company, any Indian company or a business trust, 5%. Any income by way of interest payable in respect of the monies borrowed from a source outside India by way of issue of any long-term bonds or rupee-denominated bonds which is listed only on a recognized stock exchanges located in any international financial service center. Any non-resident, not being a company or a foreign company, in any Indian company or a business trust, 4% where such bonds are issued on or after the first April 2020, but before 1st April 2023, or 9% where the such bonds are issued on or after 1st April 2023. Meaning meaning thereby that all these provisions are already mentioned in income tax 2020 1950 and 1961, and all the provisions that has been carried forward from this earlier act of income tax 1961 only. And in 2025 the same provisions are applicable. Only a provision has been sorted down and has been made in table format, and this income tax act 2025, but there would be the interpretation issue relating to this every words and sections, because explanation is not given, the proviso is not given, and early provision provide you sub provisos and sections, subsections, all things were there so that people can interpret it the same. But now for this purpose they have to refer the earlier act income tax act 1961 also for the interpretation or other uses, right? Because the many already many old matters are pending in the courts, tribunals, and high courts, supreme courts. All is pending. So this is not will, and this act is not going to reduce the litigation cases, because the interpret when the people are going to the court, because of some interpretational issues are coming to them, so that they are going to the courts for the interpretation of the act and other rules. But even the rules has been met. There was also the rule was there in the earlier act also, but now they have made something different things. So this is the video what we have discussed till 5 points of point 5 of the income tax 2025. We will come back with a new video on the income tax 2025 only. And if you have any question, please let us know. We will come back with that point also. And if you like please like and subscribe my channel and share this video to family and friends. For more updates, keep tuned to channel. Thank you.